Okay, so first thing to do, or okay, it's not only the first thing, but it's the main job to do regarding ride height is to figure out what's the minimum ride height of the car. This is not easy. You cannot find it anywhere on Rfactor 2. You need to figure it out by yourself. And for me, the easiest way is to go into a novel track and test it. So my favorite oval track is Mountain Peak Speedway. It is fast with high banking and so many bumps on the track. So this is the first thing. You need to subscribe to the Mountain Peak Speedway. You launch the game, you load the track, and then you go to settings, audio, and you turn off your engine volume and start hit the race. So as you can hear, barely nothing. You can still hear the tires is not an issue. It's okay. That's a really it's very quick test. And we start already hearing the car bottoms out. And when the car touches the ground, take a look into the tire temperatures. Up. No way. Okay, so I need to fix. Okay, it's okay. I didn't broke my arms. I have a wheel, direct drive wheel. Okay, so you see what happens when the car touches the ground. We check what Motec says. I don't think we managed to record anything. Mountain Peak. Go to suspension and we we know here. Okay, so the rear right of the Orica P2. So the Orica P2 its minimum ride height is 21 millimeters. But as you can see here, just on the first corner, we hit milestone on the rear left, maybe when we got an accident, but the values are very low and you can parameter some alerts here. As you can see, when the chassis hits the ground, I get an alert. You can see here front right also touched the ground at this point, and then I lost the car. So the job is to try to figure out what is the solution, what can I do to avoid bottoming out on the track over bumps. And also it's very important to know that the higher the speed, so the higher you go on track, the lower the ride height will be. It's the downforce pressure on the suspension. So you need to pay attention to this also. So the things that would help us to raise the car is and avoid it bottoming out. The obvious thing is the ride height. So these values. When you increase these values, I should be able to stop the car from bottoming out. So we saw that we hit 8 millimeters and we need to be at the 20 millimeters minimum, 21. So 21 minus 8 is 13 millimeters. So we say if we add 13 millimeters here, we should be okay. Let's try if it's true. I just go through the process very quickly. Uh, so it is very important. And Motec here is just um, will help us figure out very easily if we touch the ground or not. But you need to add formula for each car or take a note somewhere. We still touching the ground. You take note of the minimum ride height of each car and you go back to Motec and check where you are buttoning out. Okay, so we managed to survive this time.
Log building finished.
I will check Motec again very quickly. What's going on? Okay, so this one. And we see that what we did worked. So I've last lap at this point we were 8 millimeters, I think. Now we are at 18, but still the minimum is 6. So at this point, so still need to raise, but you cannot always raise right height, because when you raise you also lose downforce. This is why the Formula One cars are very low. Also, the LMP2 cars are very low, very near to the ground, because they need this downforce. So you see, you need to find out what's the optimal ride height, and then you say, okay, at this point, maybe I will add 8 millimeters. It's not enough. I think even if we go to 10, 10 centimeters, still not very good, I think. But now you can start messing up with other parameters that have an impact on the ride height. And you need to do compromises, and you need to find out the balance between the ride height and the spring rates. They are very important. The harder the springs, the more car will resist to the downforce, and the ride height, these static values. So the 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 ride height won't be as low as with softer springs. Softer springs, you will have very low downforce, very low ride height under high pressure, fast during fast corners or high speed, because the springs will compress very easily. But harder springs, they won't compress easily, so the ride height will still be high and acceptable. So for example, we go back to 73 and we raise the ride height, and we checked very quickly. You see, this is the advantages, one of the advantages of trying the car on an oval track. But I'm not saying that the very hard springs are the solution. They are not, but they are part of the solution. You need to figure out the balance. Okay, we're still at low speed. And this suspension is not the only thing we can do. We'll go through it. We still touch the ground, but we are 10 kilometers faster than last time. It's
Log
okay.
building finished.
Go check very quickly. So, okay, so you can see this. We'll check the averages. At the minimums, they are a little bit different. I don't know why. I take maybe different lines. It's not an issue, but the average, as you can see on the rear, they went from 49 to 53 and 46 to 50. So we gained an average of 4 millimeters on the rear right height just by increasing the stiffness of the springs. And what we can do also is the slow bumps. So you will may say no, you go to you need to use the fast bumps because you are hitting bumps. Okay, there are bumps on the track that are responsible for this for the car grounding. Uh, okay, let's check. I will put very hard fast bumps. I will do it in the front also, and we check
Logging enabled.
very quickly our right heights. Last time I did this exercise, it was with the GT cars, and I have found something special. And now I will try it with the Orica P2. We'll, we'll see if the theory is true or not. If the fast bump on Rfactor 2 or on this car works as expected or not. Okay, it's obvious we're still touching.
Log building finished.
Go check very quickly your right heights. So when you check the averages, we lost 1 millimeter, but it's not um, per. We cannot actually see any difference. It's very difficult to see any difference because I didn't take this exact same line. Okay, but we can see that there is no impact on the right height. But if we use the slow bumps, harder ones, let's go.
Logging enabled.
Maybe we'll get something different. And of course, if you want to do exact same line, you can turn on the AI control and you speed the game. Control X for speeding the game. It works also, but you need to assign this setup as default setup in order for the AI to take it into consideration. And it's also a fast way to check things like that. You can use the AI for testing. We still touch the ground. This is obvious. Okay, so here we gain it on the minimum ride height, we gain it 1 millimeter. But on the average, we lost 1 millimeter. But the the ride height is more stable. And you see also the maximum. So because the compression helps to maintain more stable aerodynamic. Okay, so this is what I think. I think what I found for when I did advanced testing, that on the Orica P2 and the GTEs, the official endurance pack, the fast bumpers doesn't do anything. It's more about the slow bumpers. So I tend to do to set them even in order to avoid any issues. I set them even, same values on the slow and on the fast ones. It's more safe option. But definitely the bumpers have more impact on the car balance and ride height and everything. So we said first thing, ride height. Then we can check the springs a little bit harder, one click. You start by one click because when you add springs, you will have a stiffer car, maybe less grip in some trucks, but then you may add two more clicks on the slow bumpers and the fast bumpers, two clicks harder, it may help. And of course, you have the pakers. So the pakers, you may say, why didn't you use the pakers on the first time? Well, the pakers on the GT cars and the LMP2 cars makes the suspension very hard and you lose too much grip. This is why I put them on the last as the last solution. But I do prefer working on the right height, the springs, the rebounds and compression. And if I didn't find any way to avoid the bottoming out of the car, I will then use the pakers. This is how I set the right height on Rfactor 2, and I just go into Motec to check my minimums, and of course I check the maximums. And what I check also, so I don't want to make this video very long, but for I'd like to talk about the impact of the ride height on the performance of the car. So the first part, it was about how can I deal with the ride height? Springs, compression, pakers, and ride height itself. Then what's the impact of the ride height on the performance of the car? So the first thing, ride height plays major role on the car's downforce balance. The lower the car is, the better. And so you have more reaction and more stable car and more fast car. But if you raise the front, the downforce balance will shift towards the rear of the car. So you will have more downforce on the rear of the car. But if you raise the rear, the balance shifts forward. Okay? This is very important. So if you have an understeering situation, what you will need is to lower the front ride height or raise the rear ride height. And if you have an extreme oversteering, especially on high speed corners, you will need to lower the ride height, the rear ride height, and maybe raise the front. Why maybe? Because you will suffer understeering on the slowest corners. So you need to find the balance between the front ride height and the rear ride height in order to have the best or the optimal downforce around the track. Second thing, it's an impact on the top speed. If you race on Le Mans, for example, on the Oreca P2 or even on the GTEs, but it's more pronounced on the Oreca P2, you will need to set a negative rake. So the rake here is the difference between the front ride height and the rear ride height. As you can see on this part of the track, okay, we'll check the straights. On the straights, we have a negative rake. It means that on the straights, the front is higher than the rear. This helps to have higher top speed because you allow the air going into the car, creates less resistance, less drag, so more top speed. This is very important. And if when you set the perfect ride height, you can also try, if you need an extra 1 kilometers per hour or 2 on the straights, you may play with the compression. So you may add 1 or 2 more clicks on the front compression, so harder compression. You will prevent the front springs from to be compressed, so the front will be much more higher than the rear. Or you can soften the rear compression, so under top speed and higher downforce, the rear will be more lower, so more lower, more top speed. This is in short, it's not very short actually, it's more than 20 minutes video, but it's very important. And this is what I can say briefly about the ride height, and I hope this video is helpful. You will find on the description of the video a link for to a document that summarizes all the videos I have done. So you will find screenshots and what I explanation of every aspect that I have discussed on my video. So I invite you to put a comment and ask if you need me to share my experience and my thoughts about a specific thing on Rfactor 2 telemetry. Don't hesitate. Put it in the comment, and I will do my best to provide you with my insights if it is helpful. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time on other videos, maybe. Bye.